Welcome everybody to another episode of this time it's Beyond Haunted Vermont, unless Anthony and his team kind of go into the Vermont area. I know it's mainly New York, but anyway, yes, Anthony Scalzo. Scalzo. Oh God, what a last name. Anyway, it's like Scalzo, Anthony. Either way, welcome aboard. Just for real quick for people, I kind of stumbled upon Anthony and his team, I guess, or group. He can correct me in a minute. But anyway, he was at the Whitehall Sasquatch Fest last year, and it seems like him and his team are into the subject just as much as a lot of us are. But yeah, we can get more into that because this is really not about me blabbering away. So, Anthony, welcome to the show.
How we doing?
Not too bad, man. I mean, it's nice and warm. I'm trying to still get over the little flu that I had over Christmas break, but other than that, it is what it is, right?
Yeah, I feel like everybody's been getting sick. It's still going around too, but yeah, that's all we can hope for is some warmer weather and healthier bodies.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I don't think it helps too when we're all suffocated in our own house sometimes.
Oh
So,
yeah.
yeah. And I guess what I mean by that is like, during the warmer season, we all have like our doors open, or if we have like a screen door or something, or have the windows open to kind of let in the fresh air and out with the old kind of thing. So that helps for sure, especially during the winter time where we're kind of just breathing the same crap. I think that also doesn't help at all.
Yeah, I think that's like the best part of spring is opening up all the doors and windows and airing the place out.
Exactly, exactly. I mean, you can always use like a dehumidifier, but I mean, that only does so much, I feel like. But anyway, we're not here to talk about like how we're doing with the weather and everything. We're here, Anthony, because of your work in a way. But I also would like to know before you got into this. I'll guess finding dystopia or FD paranormal, basically, or finding dystopia paranormal, I should say, basically for sure, or because FD is short for that. But anyway,
Yeah, yeah.
what I'm curious though is before this finding dystopia is how did you personally, get involved in this subject matter of the paranormal leading up to finding dystopia, I guess.
So I mean, growing up, like, I guess I could say I was in a haunted house at one point when I was growing up. And it's always hard when you're a kid because you never know if it's just your imagination or if there was genuinely something wrong with the place. And that kind of moved out of there and life went on. It was kind of buried in the back of my head and finished high school. I went off to college and I got a degree in criminal justice. And then I eventually met my girlfriend, Kayla, and her dad, Joey, who I run the channel with the both of them. And, I was maybe dating Kayla for a couple months and her dad was kind of like, hey, uh, would you guys want to start a ghost hunting channel? Just because, it was something we were into, like on YouTube and stuff. We would sit down and watch it. So I'd say it's definitely a development that occurred within like the last 3 or 4 years that I've been really into it. Like I've always been into cryptids and like watching stuff like that on YouTube and aliens and stuff, but I never thought it would be something that would kind of take hold on my life the way it does now. But I mean, it was kind of spontaneous. One day my girlfriend's dad was like, hey, let's start a channel. I was like, yeah, why not? It'll be fun. And we started getting views and stuff like that. And yeah, I mean, it's been awesome so far.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's usually how it works. But ironically, we got to all start somewhere. But you mentioned like you think you were in a haunted house. Can you maybe elaborate more on that? Like, you remember anything that maybe, like today, as you look back on it, you can't really explain what was going on? Like, I have a couple I could share too.
Yeah, so I mean, a lot of it too comes from my mom just telling me like weird stuff that me and my sister would say went on, like, and she swore that sometimes she would see like a shadow figure, almost like a Hat Man type of guy. And I mean, I do vividly remember one thing, and like I was saying before, it's one of those things like when you're a kid, like you don't really know if you're remembering it exactly right. But this is the way I remember it: is I for whatever reason, was kind of backwards as a kid. You know, most kids want their closet shut so they can't see like that dark just room. But I needed to have my closet open. And I remember putting like a toy fire truck in front of the closet to keep it open. And I remember one night the fire truck rolled away and the closet door just shut on its own. And that definitely was one of the freaky moments that I do remember.
Wow, that's yeah, that would be kind of creepy. It's not like one of the toys where nowadays, you can just put it on the ground and basically to make it go by itself, you have to kind of uh, work it backwards or like a wind up
It was
thing.
just, yeah, it wasn't even a wind up one. Yeah, it was just like a regular one that you would push on the ground.
And as far and I'm sorry for asking this, Anthony, but this is like me, even now, like I just ask everybody just to kind of make sure I'm clicking everything, or just because, like a detective, like a ghost
You
hunter
gotta
would,
check all
probably
your
like how you
boxes.
would look at it. Yeah, you want to check all the boxes, but like, do you recall if like a window or something was open, or there was like strong wind that could have possibly have came into your room to push the fire truck out of the way?
As far as I remember in that room, I only had one window, and I'm pretty sure my dresser was in front of it, so it's not even like it was something that I regularly opened. And I do remember it was in the winter time, so it definitely would have been closed. We were in it was an old house, so definitely window would have been closed.
Gotcha. Yeah, yeah, that makes it creepy though. And Auntie, I don't know about you, but what is going on with like these closets now? Like, you know what I mean? Like, why is it always like a spooky closet?
I don't know. And I feel like that's something that kind of develops from when we're kids, like, the monster in the closet or the monster under the bed. But we went to Wilson Castle actually in Vermont. The video isn't out yet, but that's in your neck of the woods.
Yeah,
And
it's like a 5 minute drive from me.
literally, yeah. And I think one of the closets there is supposed to be a portal. I honestly
Yep.
have no idea.
Yeah, dude. Oh man, I should have you back on then for that. I'd love to hear and watch, maybe after I watch it. But yeah, just to see what you guys did. That's awesome. I love that place. I've been there twice, and I'll never forget the first time. So I hope you guys had a better time than like my first time compared to the second time out there. And what I mean by that is like I'd never actually posted the second time I went to Wilson Castle, because I think in reality, I think I maybe would have maybe just like a half hour of stuff if I even captured anything. I mean, there was something going on the second time around, but it wasn't as active, or should I say alive, as the
Yeah,
first time it
and that's
was.
something we noticed too. Like, we were there. Geez, I mean, I think we had probably over 8 hours worth of footage that got
Mm.
cut down into it's probably going to end up being between an hour and a half and 2 hours. But yeah, like and especially when you're going to a big location like that with a super rich history and you're paying for something, like there's always kind of the expectation that things are going to happen. But in reality, with haunted places, like sometimes nothing just goes on, like, and it could be a culmination of different things.
Exactly. Well, I guess I could share a little bit of this, but we could definitely talk more when it comes out, if you don't mind. But yeah, so I made 13 videos for Wilson Castle, and some of them are, I don't know, anywhere between 15 to, I forget how long exactly, maybe an hour worth. I've been thinking about just taking all the videos and turning it into like a mega compilation kind of thing. But anyway, the point to what I want to get at, and to touch on like what you were saying about, uh, the quiet time and stuff like that. Like it seems quiet versus being active. I remember when we were there the first time, it it felt like there wasn't much going on the first couple hours that we were there investigating. But then as the hours creeped up, for lack of wording, that's when it seemed like there was more going on. And it definitely took off like after midnight. for some weird reason there. And so what I like about the videos, and the reason why I kind of made it have like 13 videos, is because I wanted to kind of make it feel like if the person watching was there with us, almost like a way to say like you're investigating with us, you're
Yeah.
experiencing it the way that we would. It's not like I said like, oh well, there's nothing happening in the first, let's say for the rough example, 2.5 hours that we were there. I'm not going to cut that out. I feel like that's actually really important
Yeah,
because,
you're
as you
totally right.
know, and and Anthony, I know you can agree with me with this, and we can talk about it more, especially with your FD paranormal. Is especially with shows nowadays, with paranormal shows, like
Yeah,
everybody
and
just
YouTube
wants to cut.
channels.
Yeah, yep, and we just always see, just the activity. We don't really experience, let's just say for the rough example here, the 5 hours of non-activity. We always just
Yeah.
see everything, right? So I think it's really good to show that because, everybody thinks we're just getting activity. When in reality, you could literally just be there for 8 hours and maybe not even get a single hit, which is kind of like what happened to us at Wilson Castle the second time around, like I was mentioning. Like, I don't even, uh, yeah, I mean, I don't even think we investigated past midnight because there wasn't much going on, sadly, which was strange enough. So, I don't know when you guys went to Wilson Castle, but I went around July and again in September. And both
We
times I
went
can say,
around August,
interesting.
I wanna say. So
Okay.
probably we were right there around the same time, but yeah, no, I totally agree with what you're saying. Like, it is super, actually, I'd say crucial to the investigation to leave in the lack of activity as well, because that in a way can be a form of evidence in itself. But like you're saying with the TV shows and all these YouTube channels, like there's this constant expectation for paranormal channels to just constantly be getting the craziest stuff. And like for us, like especially lately, it's been trying to find a balance between marketing ourselves as something that, that popular group of people likes to watch, especially on YouTube, but also staying true to ourselves as investigators. And like I'm sure as a video editor, like you can make basically something out of nothing sometimes. Like if you cut stuff super close together, like it'll make it seem like all this crazy stuff's going on, but in
Oh,
reality
totally.
half of these ghost channels, like that's not how the investigation works. So like
No.
trying to find a balance between keeping it entertaining and concise but also realistic at the same time.
That's where I find it to be hard, right? Because you would hope there was something that happened, but then at the same time, you know damn well that you're gonna have to be like, well, is this really necessary to leave in, or is it not? Do I just kind of, for lack of wording here, do like that famous what everybody kind of uses now, the SpongeBob theme where it's like a few hours later,
Yeah,
like
literally, yeah.
yeah, and or do you leave it in? I think if it goes longer for what it should initially be, I think yes, maybe show parts of it, but then cut out, but also mention like hey, this is how quiet it was for the next like let's just say 2 hours, right? And then we can jump into like I don't know the new area or something because I don't know how you guys investigated Wilson Castle versus like how we did it. But like the team that I was invited with, um, I kind of wanted to be respectful and go by like what they did, but they basically did 45-minute sessions and then they would take a break. And then they would go back for 45 minutes and then take a break, which I think that's in all reality, that's fair because there was, let's see, we had two groups going on at the same time, which, depending on how many people were there, we would be split up into two groups of like three or four, I'll just say. And there was some sessions where we actually all grouped together. So that's how you could see in the video, like it's not one of us like walking in the hallway or talking in the hallway with some of the clips that I ended up capturing. from Wilson Castle. So it's a good balance there. I guess is what I'm trying to get at.
It sounds very similar to how we investigate. I mean, it may not always be 45 minutes to the T, but yeah,
No.
we'll do like we try to go room by room, and then something we'll do eventually because usually, like, I mean, when we went to Wilson Castle, we had Sue and Brian Goslin with us, so like it was a bigger group than normal. But we usually will do a split up at one point too, just to try and cover more ground.
How many people were with you?
So it was me, Joey, Kayla, who's a camera woman and editor, and my girlfriend, and my friend Tanner, who's on the channel from time to time, and Sue and Brian Goslin. So like 5 or 6 people, and I think the guy
Sounds
who
like
ran the
6.
tours was around.
Oh, Andy?
Yes, Andy.
Yep. Nice. Awesome. Yeah, Andy's a good dude. I've known him since like like middle school basically.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. So it's nice to see that he's still, helping out with the castle. He's been doing that for years and it's kind of interesting.
Yeah, and he's a super nice guy and very knowledgeable about the place.
Oh, totally, man. Totally. Yeah, it's I would want to know anything about that castle. Andy would be one of the first person I would want to reach out to for sure. So I guess talk to us, Anthony, real quick. Besides the Wilson Castle now, because now all I want to do is talk Wilson Castle, but I'd want to wait for you to release your stuff, and we can definitely go into it there. And I'm curious to know like what you guys all captured, sort of, and like what you guys are gonna show us per se. But anyway, so talk to us about your paranormal thing. And before I do, I said I would have a story for you, and I will share one. So I don't want to barge people again about the missing doorknob story that I have. So I have another one that I can do. But and everybody kind of probably have heard my farmhouse experience with my buddy Justin by now, with the weird closet and that aspect. That's why I kind of made the joke about the closets, like what's going on with closets. And anyway, so another one I can share is my original house real quick. Is instead of like, I guess, beside the missing doorknob incident, I remember hearing like voices like coming from like our attic, and this would be the attic for us was like in the upstairs in what I would call the large bathroom area. As soon as you would step into like the large bathroom on the second floor, which I guess if you want to maybe ask me, it would probably be about 6 steps to get to the bathroom, because it would have been right next to my sister's bedroom at the time. But as soon as you walk into the bathroom and just look straight up, that's where my attic was. Or even if you were outside, right by the stairs leading up to the upstairs floor, you could just literally just look up from outside of the bathroom door, and there's the attic. But I mean, there was a few times where I feel like I could hear people talking in the attic, which was weird. And I always thought maybe it was my parents' TV, because from where my parents' room is and my old bedroom was, it was almost like wall to wall. The only difference was like, if I wanted to get to my parents' room, I'd have to basically come out from my bedroom door and maybe take maybe 4 or 5 steps to get to my parents' room. So it wasn't like it was far away, and I feel like I could definitely, if the TV was on, could hear like whatever they were watching. But the way this worked, it felt like the voices would come in on the opposite end, like toward like the bathroom. And as I even grew up again, I kind of was thinking, like, going back with your comment about, well, as we're kids, was it even real, or did we think it was real, or whatever? I wish I could like remember the layout of my old grandparents' house, especially the layout of, if like seeing it on like a blueprint in a way to kind of see and match from like where the large bedroom is, or sorry, large bathroom is to like what is connected on the other side of that wall, because that's where would have been my I think my grandparents' side of the duplex house, whatever you want to call this thing. But I just remember vaguely, like, it just sounded like people were talking in the attic, almost like they were playing like poker or something upstairs in the attic, which is always weird to me. But was it actually maybe my grandparent TV I was hearing? Because there was times where I thought it was my parent TV, but it was not even on, and I know that because if I do have my door open sometimes, or even if I don't have the door open, you can kind of see like that TV glow effect, if you know what I mean. And for those, basically, you can tell like when a TV is on or off. Basically, is what I'm trying to get at. But that's like my weird little story that I have that I haven't really shared that much.
Yeah, that's pretty creepy, man. Especially anything to do with the attic. And that reminds me too, in that house I was talking about, the story I had about the closet, there was an attic, and I do remember me and my sister would go up there all the time, and there was like a chest on the ground, like an old, like almost looked like a pirate chest, right? And it was kind of cool when we were kids because it felt like, a mystery or an adventure, but it was full of a bunch of old papers and documents about the previous owner. And I do remember being very creeped out by that. And, I feel like in my head at the time, like, I remember going through the box and I was like, I hope that the ghost isn't mad at me for going through their stuff. But the reality was, I think the only scary thing that we ever experienced in that attic is there was a hornet's nest up there.
A hornet nest? Oh no, man! That's oh god.
Yeah, so I do remember we were going through the chest one day and we got attacked by a swarm of hornets.
Oh man. Rest in peace on that day. Jeez.
Yeah, for sure.
No man. Yeah, that's fascinating. Yeah, oh, God, dude. That kind of reminds me of another story. It kind of like I don't know what it is, but sometimes when you do have that opportunity where I don't know, something, let's just say for the example here, like something's left behind, right, from somebody that's no longer alive. And it's like kind of like what you said, like I hope they don't get mad at me for like going through their stuff. And it's just like, you know, they're so I don't know how well you know Vermont, but we used to there's like an old hospital that they used to treat tuberculosis patient at and stuff, and they would do the whole like you lay on your bed like on the roof, basically like on a balcony. But anyway, supposedly before the haunted house people took that over, when they initially like went in there to the building, they had found these like old documents of like when it was the the old hospital. But from what I understand, they didn't take it to like the historical society. They like gave it to somebody else, and I fear like it got lost or maybe had thrown away because if I remember correctly, they gave it to like somebody else. Where therefore I don't even know if they just threw it away because it was just old document. They didn't think it was important when if it did get tossed, was to say. Like that's history no longer around. Like that
Yeah.
we could have learned from that.
Yeah, I think New York is pretty similar in the fact that we had a lot of cure cottages up here too. I mean, they're mostly in like Saranac Lake and Lake Placid and stuff, but we actually are going to try and get into some of those either this upcoming spring or summer.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, wish you all the best of luck for that, man. Um, so yeah, so talk to us about, I guess, what would be first when it comes to finding dystopia. I know we were talking a little bit off the air, so finding dystopia. So you guys started this basically, and kind of, I guess, lead us into that. Like, what did you guys, I guess, encounter during your time there before splitting I get the channel up.
Yeah, so originally, to give the audience context, we have two channels. The second one is a newer edition. So we originally started off doing ghost investigations under the name Finding Dystopia, and talk a little bit about like what we started with. So like I guess our first real investigation was kind of a house call. It was called We called it the Demon House of Blue Ridge because it was on Blue Ridge Road out in North Hudson in New York. And one of the I don't want to say owner, but it was the grandson of the owners used to live there, and basically it was an old house from I believe the mid 1800s, and there was a general store that was next to it. Now, originally, I don't know if the house was moved or if it was already there, but I do know for a fact that the general store was actually moved on horse and carriage, I believe, in the early 1900s. I think, I mean, now it would be like a 40-minute drive, but back then probably took days. And apparently, some of the lore behind that place, according to the grandson, is that, his aunts and stuff were playing with a Ouija board, and supposedly they were in contact with a demon. And, like some of the family members would wake up in the middle of the night, like speaking in tongues and all this crazy, crazy stuff, right? So we started there and actually did 3 investigations there. So there's 3 parts out. I don't know if they're out currently because we're kind of going through the process of like revamping that second channel. But eventually, we've done a bunch of places, and we could probably talk all day, but just for the sake of the listeners and the podcast, I'll just kind of shorten things. So we eventually went to Ticonderoga, New York, and investigated it's called the Hancock House, but it's basically the Historic Society. It was built by Horatius Moses. I'm not sure on the year, but he basically built it after John Hancock's house. And so we investigated that place, and we caught some pretty weird stuff, like, very visible or audible, I should say, EVPs of somebody saying hello that I even in the moment heard myself, and we picked it up on camera, which was pretty crazy. And footsteps going up the stairs behind us when everybody was in the same room, like there was nobody else in there. So that investigation went so well that we actually got invited to host kind of like a Halloween event where we would introduce people to modern paranormal investigating, how it works, and like who we are and some of the stuff we've captured. Well, uh, I'm sure a bunch of your people on the channel are obviously familiar with Brian Goslin, right?
It's hard to say, man. I mean, maybe. I mean, if they keep up with that type of stuff. I mean, I'm assuming that they're in the Bigfoot world, right?
Right, right. Well, if you're into the Bigfoot world and you know Brian Goslin, then great. But if you don't, so he was part of like a group of witnesses that saw Bigfoot in the late 70s, and it kind of put Whitehall on the map for Bigfoot research and things like that. But so Brian's wife Sue actually met us at this event that we were hosting, which was also at the Historic Society. And before this, I an avid History Channel watcher and things like that, and I've seen Brian himself on History Channel a bunch of times. So it was pretty cool. We got to meet his wife, and then we started thinking, because me and Joey have always been into Sasquatch. So like we're like, all right, we gotta meet Brian. So it turned into us meeting Brian, and then we were like, okay, well, let's get his interview, because the more I looked into like some of the History Channel stuff, and like after reading his book and whatnot, like I realized that Brian's story was actually different from the way it was portrayed in certain documentaries and TV. So I was like, it would be awesome if we gave Brian a shot, like unfiltered, uncut, to just sit down in front of a camera and tell his story without altering it for the purposes of TV. And then that eventually turned into like doing straight up Bigfoot investigations with Brian. And like this year, the video's not out yet, but we just got back from the Bridgewater Triangle in Vermont. I think we went in August, or sorry, Bennington. I get that one confused with the one in Massachusetts. We did the Bennington Triangle for some Bigfoot stuff, and like kind of explored the missing person cases there and stuff like that.
Well, there you go. See, another reason why we should have you back on, Anthony.
Yeah,
Just
we
write
got
it down.
plenty of
Yeah.
stories. Like I would have to sit there and count how many investigations we've done. Um, and like this, even the Sasquatch stuff alone, I think feel like we're probably nearing the 20s for Sasquatch stuff, and the paranormal stuff is without a doubt definitely in the 20s.
That's fair. Yeah, I want to go back to a comment that you were mentioning when you were talking about like the disembodied voice hearing in real time. That reminds me of going back to Wilson Castle for a minute. Uh, I still remember this, like even to this day, even though it's almost been like a year since it happened. But we were all in Sarah's room, and
Yep.
this is why I was talking, made that comment about like there's sometimes where we would all just get together, and that way you knew like it wasn't just us walking in the hallway. But anyway, so we were doing a spirit box session, and it's I don't know if whoever we're trying to go through, if it was Sarah or some other female spirit that resides there, but just couldn't have been more perfect, I guess, is so when the guy Jason turned off the spirit box thing because I forget why he wanted to shut it off, but just to shut it off just because maybe or something, or maybe just have like that quick little break or something. I'm not sure, but as soon as he turned it off, it was like a couple seconds later, we heard a disembodied voice coming from what to me was like right by the door of her room, and we heard it in real time, and I actually captured that voice on the camera too, and so that way you could see like my reaction in real time, like it was like hello, and as soon as I heard that, I whipped the camera to where I heard that disembodied voice, and I'm like, what the? And I was just like, hello,
Yeah,
like that.
that's the best though, like, because it's one thing, like, when you're editing and in post, you're like, "Oh, like, what was that?" Like, "I think that was an EVP," or whatever, but when you hear it in person, it's not an EVP anymore, it's a disembodied voice, so to get the disembodied voice and the EVP that are saying the same exact thing and, like, getting the investigator's reaction to it, it's like you can't really ask for anything better as an investigator, like.
Right. Yeah, and I feel like that's like one of my best pieces there, just because it's just like how I don't like that was the first time I actually heard a disembodied voice in real time. Which, because I know people always said that, like, oh man, I remember hearing this voice in real time. I'm like, oh man, I wish I got that lucky. All I get is like these voices on the recorder that I gotta go back
Yeah.
and listen to sometimes, or if I'm using a spirit box, and then I can, try to do my best to kind of counteract with data in real time. But you know how that is. That can be a hit or miss too. Um, but when I reacted to that disembodied voice, I got up and then I, used the camera to basically pan the hallway. And ironically, I actually had another camera going out in that hallway where the pool table is. Um, One of the other investigators left the what do they call that? The trip wire, the trip rope, whatever. And basically, what I found interesting about that is right before and even during when this disembodied voice was captured, that that like rope never went off to signify somebody was walking down the hallway or anything like that. It was just so cool to have that other piece of evidence to basically say like, no, because we're all in this room and we all heard it at the same time in this room. So it to me is like a real good piece of evidence.
Yeah, that actually reminds me of something else I wanna talk about real quick because you mentioned using the light strip to confirm that there was actually nobody in the hallway. We actually use a lot of our ghost equipment to debunk possible false readings. Like, I don't know if this is something that you guys practice or not, and I'm sure it depends on the area because, like, not every place you go to even has electricity. But we'll always walk around the house with EMF detectors to see, like, okay, like if we put a REM pod next to this specific, like, lamp or whatever, like it's gonna go crazy. You know what I mean? So like we always and we'll try to keep like document as much of this as we can without making it too boring and repetitive. But it's like so one of those things you can do as an investigator that's like, okay, like there are no random EMF spikes anywhere in this house. So if we do get something, what is it? You know what I mean?
I know exactly what you mean. Yeah, personally, because I'm almost like a one man crew when it comes to this haunted Vermont thing, unless I get invited like I was for like Western Cats and for a different group. But yeah, they do the same thing. They want to get that reading first, so that way, as you just said, when they go back, we can basically say like, yeah, this wasn't here before. Or if it is, what is it? Like, why is it giving us a high reading? Well, it could be an electrical thing. It could be some sort of microwave wave, or however you want
Yeah,
to
like
look at
even
that.
radio waves, you know what I mean? Like if
Yeah,
you're right
radio
next
wave.
to a radio tower or something, like that definitely could affect an investigation, but you got to check first to see if there's any
Yep.
like intermittent waves or anything coming through. But I mean, like
Yeah.
with Wilson Castle, that place is made of brick and like there's mortar and stuff. Like you really don't have to worry about much penetrating those walls. So like we just focused primarily on the inside.
Right. And if memory serves me right, the nearest radio tower or cell tower, I'm pretty sure that's a radio tower, is literally down the hill from where Wilson Castle is on and across the street. And I don't know what you would say, maybe like another 50 feet into that field is where the
Yeah,
tower
there is
is.
a
So,
radio tower that's like right there. And like I remember being worried about that when we pulled up to the place. I was like, oh no, there's a radio tower right there. But after, some pretty thorough investigation, we found like, okay, like there wasn't even like any just random EMF in that place at all.
no, no, it's pretty dead set on whatever you're reading at the time, of course. So, yeah.
But yeah, it's good to get your base levels and stuff so you know like what is out of the ordinary and what might just be a natural
Right.
explanation.
Yeah, exactly. Like I can actually share another example real quick, Anthony. Is so sometimes when I go out and do my own little, I guess you could say my own little, field investigations when I'm by myself, and I don't really do too much, but I like to document, like you said. Like sometimes I'll just go to like a cemetery, and sometimes I like to do my reading there to even make sure there's nothing weird, I guess. Like in this case, what I mean by that is like some cemeteries they have like flowing water underneath, some don't. Some have maybe towers nearby, but some of the cemeteries that I go, there's no towers nearby. There's mainly bad signal for cell phones anyway. And maybe if you have a radio, uh, depending on how open the area is, and what I mean by that is like depending on how many trees are nearby. um, Sometimes the radio can't come in and penetrate your investigation that way. So sometimes you get a lot of white noise for sure. But I think also now, if there is some towers going on, there does seem to be more much more of a stronger signal, if that makes sense. Because I have noticed, like, I can kind of pick up the radio now in a certain cemetery more than when I could, but just say back in like 2012. But what I just want to get at real quick is like, I have two EMF readers. One is like by the light color changing, one is by like, the zero point 0. Um, Basically the metal detector, I think, versus like the regular EMF. But anyway,
Yeah,
I'll
because there's
use both
different
of them.
scales. You got like milligauss and stuff like that.
Yeah. So I'll use those just to kind of make sure there's no random readings. And if I do get sometimes random readings, I actually learned this thanks to a good friend of mine, but he told me like if I start getting weird reading to kind of see if you can follow it as it goes up to the sky, as it goes down below the ground, or as it goes left and right. Try to see if you can debunk it or if it just stays. And in this one particular cemetery, I've had weird spikes go off, but that I can't even explain. Like there should not be any spikes in a cemetery.
Yeah. Yeah, and like you were saying too, like, trees and buildings and everything, like all that stuff can affect radio frequencies and like The way a K2 meter works, it's not most of them anyway. Like some do have an antenna, and those will probably pick up roaming EMF fields from all over the place. But it has to be very direct to make a K2 meter or a milligauss reader go off. So like even like with light switches and stuff like that, like it has to be putting a significant amount of EMF out. And like sometimes with our K2 meters and stuff, we have to get like literally right next to a circuit box or whatever for it even to go off.
Yeah. Yep. Or you just got to just be around a specific area, and then that's where you just, I guess, question: is it a radio rave or microwave rave or something else, or electrical wiring issue? That and you're absolutely right though when it comes to the K2 meter. Sometimes you just got to just literally put it right up against the wall per se, and that's when you get the reading, and you just kind of go from there, really. But at the same time, this antenna that you're talking about, depending on the one that I have that I can give, like my K2 one, that doesn't have an antenna, but my Mel detector one,
Yeah, the millimeter
uh,
does.
yeah, the
But
Mel
that you can
meter.
also use that as a REM pod as well. That's why it has that antenna on it.
Yeah, that's fair. But yeah, that antenna though is very short. It's not like it's one of those great big
Yeah, oh yeah.
walkie-talkie one that you can just kind of unfold and there you go. Um, but yeah, that just reminds me when you were saying that disembodied voice about the Wilson Castle one that I wanted to share because that's one of my favorites.
Yeah, so I got another two things I could talk about real quick. On the subject of weird stuff happening, we actually just dropped this video, and maybe you could put it in a link in the description or something like that. We
Oh,
just
totally.
uploaded it yesterday. It is without a doubt the wildest Estes method I have ever experienced in my life.
Mm,
Sometimes it's like random. Like we actually made contact with something that there's proof of in the newspaper, and like it was so direct. Like I don't want to reveal too much. I just wanted to say like it involved a boat captain and the subject who was under talking about a boat crash, feeling sorry for things, but literally saying his name, and then when asked, "Are you the captain?" responded, "Yes." Like it was, I'm telling you, like the craziest thing I think we've experienced so far.
what's the video called?
Let me check real quick.
Or let me ask
So
you
it
this:
was
what?
the
Oh,
it was the old Lake George courthouse in Lake George. It's called "We Found Something Evil in the Basement of this Abandoned Jail."
okay, because I was gonna say I see. Does this old jail hold something evil?
Oh yeah, that's it. She must. Our editor must have changed the
The
title
name.
because now
Okay.
that other one popped up again.
Okay. Yeah.
Sometimes we do that. Like it's just you know how it is with the algorithm and stuff. You got to have a catchy thumbnail and a catchy
Oh
title.
God. Yeah.
And sometimes it's underperforming, so we'll change the thumbnail and we'll change the title, and that usually gives us a boost.
Yeah, for sure, man. I mean, that's I think the hardest thing ever. So, um, yeah, I'll definitely put that video up though with this episode because now, yeah, talking about that method, man, that reminds me of Wilson Castle. We had somebody go under. What was that called? The library or the smoke room? Did that ring a bell for
Yeah,
Wilson
yeah,
Castle?
I know what you're talking about. It's like a little office.
Yep. As soon as for the listeners, I guess, like as soon as you walk in through like the main entrance, people, the library smoke room basically would be literally right to your left. So that's where the room is. But yeah, there we did like one of those sessions there, and the guy went under and et cetera, et cetera. And dude, there was some weird responses coming even from there. Like we are trying to figure out if somebody had gotten murdered or something. Like it was just so weird because I'd never heard of anybody getting murdered, but it was almost like that's what this these answers
It's
were
kind
trying
of
to say.
funny you say that actually
Uh
because
oh.
Brian Gosling's wife Sue, And I don't know if we even really talked about this much in the video because it's actually something that kind of has been developing recently. So, Sue Goslin is a medium, and she actually just went to Wilson Castle like a couple months ago, like after we had went originally together, and there were some responses I think we had got about somebody being murdered and something like that. But back when she went originally over the summer before we did, she was there, I think, with some other sensitives and stuff like that, and somebody drew a picture of somebody being chased through the woods, right? And then the next frame was kind of them being strangled, and then I guess she went back again, and somebody else had apparently felt something about that, but I guess and, I don't know if we'll probably have to do a follow-up video, and maybe we can include you in some of this to get, like, your experiences there, but she had been researching into like a serial killer or something that had been in the area, and I'm not sure how close it was, but we were kind of speculating, like, was there something involved? Because I guess there was a missing girl in the area. So there definitely like was this weird rabbit hole that we've been down, and it totally could be nothing, but it's just kind of weird that you said that.
Yeah, I that's why I kind of wanted to bring that up because they were just weird. Like, man, I'll send you the video. Maybe I'll add that video to this post too. But yeah, that was so weird. It was like I'm trying to remember some of the responses, but God, it's like I said, it's been almost a year, so it's really hard to remember everything, unfortunately. And especially when something like this, where it doesn't really make sense of why you're getting these answers or something. Because I did ask Andy about this. I said, "So, Andy, can you maybe help clarify this? Like, do you know was there like a murder or something?" And he's like, as far as he's aware, they've never heard of like like a murder around or something like that as far as the castle goes. I'm like, and I remember we're all kind of just like, well, this is weird because in the library we were getting these weird responses as this person was scared to talk about it because of like a murder that happened or something. That's all I can vaguely remember right now. But I will
That
send you
does
that
remind
video
me of
after this.
yeah, dude, I'd really appreciate that. That does remind me of my SD session there, though, actually, because we just edited that the other day. Like the Wilson Castle video, it should be out. Like I don't know, we're almost done, so within the next couple weeks it'll be out, and we can kind of revisit things after that. But I remember seeing clips of my SD's method were like very aggressive, like almost seemed something to do with strangulation and domestic abuse. It seemed like there was this very angry spirit that was not a nice person and potentially had done some pretty bad things. So we'll have to
Do you
revisit that for sure.
do do you, for some reason I'm trying to remember more, but during this at all, did it ever feel like it was like a kid trying to say something? But and I think that's why they were afraid to say
Not
something because
not
go
with
ahead.
me, but
Hmm.
maybe with some of the other sensitives experiences and stuff like that. Like I'd have to talk to Sue about it again. But maybe one
Hmm.
of these days like we could all meet up there or something and like
Totally, dude.
do an
I
investigation
I
and
love that
kind of move
place. So
forward. Oh yeah, it's an awesome place. But yeah, we'll see like cuz we might have it totally could be nothing, but we might have uncovered something that we didn't know about before because of a paranormal investigation.
and that sometimes happens, right?
Right.
Like why do you think sometimes some police officer will go to a medium sometimes? Because sometimes the medium can actually be accurate about specific things. I'll just say because you know how that can be. That's a touchy subject as it is,
Yeah.
anyway.
Yeah, that's another rabbit hole.
Yeah. So, oh man, like I said, man, I now you're making me want to go back to my Wilson Castle just to take down notes and stuff so I could remember all this. But
Yeah, we should revisit it after the episode comes out.
oh hell yeah, dude! I'm already looking excited to this because if you may have captured something that might have anything to do with what we captured, dude, that would be great. That this goes to show, like what do they call that? Like it's a not yeah, it's like a is it a coincidence? Like you and I never
Synchronicity,
invested.
yeah.
Yeah, it's like you and I never investigated together, but yet if we capture almost like the same stuff in a way, like
Yeah, then there's
that.
absolutely no bias involved.
Yeah, and you know what? Just for the record, I'm just curious. When before you guys went to Wilton Castle, did you do any research prior, or did you just kind of go in there and kind of let Andy, do his thing that he usually does, which is give you guys like a tour and kind of tell you guys what's going on?
So yeah, that definitely varies on like what location we're going to. Like with this case specifically, like with Wilson Castle, we didn't look anything up because we knew that they ran like a tour service and stuff like that. And sometimes honestly it's best to like, because obviously it's great to learn the history, but sometimes we try to wait until even after we investigate the place. So we'll investigate the place, then we'll kind of do research, and so we can give context to the viewers and see if anything lines up. But like it also like it very definitely depends on where we go, because like some locations we'll research first just to kind of get a feel for what we're dealing with. Other locations we want to go in blind, but yeah, this one we knew that Andy was gonna he had all the stories and stuff, so we just kind of wanted him to tell his experiences because he's definitely more familiar with the place than we were.
Oh, totally. Yeah, yeah. No, I was just curious because I'm sort of the same way. Like I would rather let the environment tell me and
Yeah,
then go into it because I feel like the more you know going into a quote haunted location, it's almost like you're gonna expect the answer or
yeah,
something.
and it's called the power of suggestion.
Yes, the power of suggestion. Thank you. Yes. Because you know what, I'll give you a quick example on this power of suggestion. So like back in 2012, I think it was, maybe it was 2015, I can't remember anymore. Anyway, point to this is we checked out the Hubbardton battlefield here in Hubbardton, Vermont, which is a good place to check out, by the way, Anthony, if you get a chance with your team. Um, so we did some historic reading into it, which I'm kind of glad I did because of just some of the interesting things that I had learned prior to the fact that there's a historical building there that kind of gives you like a little bit of a brief history there and stuff like that. Long story short, though, is not only is there a battlefield there, but there's also a cemetery, like one of those really old cemeteries, the one where I have like the great big gigantic like gravestones that basically is either as tall or as wide as like you and I are, Anthony. Like those, that's how old it is. And
Yeah,
anyway, it got to the point when we got to the cemetery that I had remembered before Hubbardton was actually turned into Vermont. It was New York originally. So I tried to pretend that I was lost and I'm trying to figure out what state I'm in actually. If I'm in New York or if I'm Vermont. There was an EVP captured, but as you know, with EVPs and stuff, it's very hard sometimes to really boop up the voices without losing the quality. But from what I recall, the answer that I had gotten was whoever answered me was trying to tell me that I was in New York, which I thought was very interesting. So I guess what I'm trying to get at is, did I, because I knew that, did the environment get that feeling that that's what I was looking for the answer, or was this a legit case of this person actually really thinks that I may be lost, and I'm just more wanting to know what state I'm actually in. You know what I
yeah. I
mean?
mean, that's a pretty cool investigation tactic, by the way. But yeah, it's always hard to like to say like, is this really something? And like, we're the type of channel like we'll never, like some other channels without naming names, but it's mostly the popular ones on YouTube are like, "Oh, like,
Totally.
this is what happened, like, we caught this and that." We always try to leave things open for interpretation. We don't ever wanna tell the audience what to think, and, like, sometimes you have to, like, at least suggest or give them context to say, "Okay, like, this is what we think happened," at the very least. But I think it's good to leave some of that stuff open for interpretation, you know what I mean?
Yes. Yep, I totally understand what you're getting at. So anyway, you know what? I'll share this too because this brings up another good, interesting point. So going with the idea of just just the power of suggestion or whatever. So this one I feel contradicts it. But anyway, so near the end of the investigation, I was the only one that was left unattended, I would just say. Like I wanted to be by myself while the rest of the members were up on the hill. So you couldn't really hear them at all in my audio, basically, because it was just me present. But before I left, I once again remembered, like, because of it being a war, obviously there's going to be prisoners of war, there's going to be captured, stuff like that. And I remember this one particular person that was such a, uh, for lack of word, and basically, it's one of those guys that they think they're Mr. Tough Guy, basically. I guess I can say, like, that type of attitude. Anyway, I kind of was doing that weird tactic where, I would kind of be like, oh, so you're Mr. Tough Guy capturing all these people and blah, 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 basically. But anyway, at one point when I remembered prisoners, I kind of stood in the middle of the field where I was, and I kind of just let the environment, just kind of settle down for a minute, make sure I could not actually hear my member on the top of the hill, stuff like that. But anyway, the last thing in the video that I left it off with, and I didn't hear this in real time until after I had gone back and re-listened, but I had asked a question, and it was, "Were you scared?" And I was trying to point to it as either, like I said, a prisoner of war, maybe, or maybe even the soldiers in the battle, and to begin with, because I was thinking either or, right? Um, what I found odd that I don't recall really learning about this area was that the voice I had gotten, which was a yes, by the way, to that question of were you scared, it was a female voice. And I'm just like blown away about that because I was just like, why is there a female voice? Like was there maybe like like an Indian captive? Was it, I don't know, was it like some sort of member of the party or parties maybe that were doing some sort of, I don't know, like cooking for the people or something? Like I don't even know how to answer this. But what I found odd and interesting at the same time is, like, during this recording you can hear cricket, but as soon as, like, the the response came in of the yes for the question, and I'll say it again, which is, "Were you scared?" And then a couple seconds went by, and you hear yes. Um, it was almost as if this spirit that came in kind of somehow quieted the cricket down enough to be heard. It was so creepy and cool because it's just one of those, like, again, it's just one of those responses where it's just like, what is going on there? And I tried to go back again with a different team because they like what I had or we had captured from there, and they wanted to try it out. But that night when I went back with this particular team, we didn't really have the best of luck. But I mean, it is what it is. It just goes to show you can't always rely on just one time going to a place. You have to go multiple times to really get that definitive answer of a location being haunted or not, I feel like. But yeah, that's my little other interest in EVP from the same place by using sort of like the power of suggestion, but I wouldn't say that really was the power of suggestion.
Yeah, I mean, if it's one thing to interpret a response in a certain way, but I can tell you that's not the power of suggestion that's influencing your decision because you're not even sure, like, what, obviously, other than the obvious answer, yes, you're not sure who it could be. But yeah, like, I think the power of suggestion more or less affects, like, you kind of subconsciously or even consciously putting a narrative into your video. You know what I mean? But like
Mm-hmm.
by responses or words that maybe relate but maybe don't. So I feel like that's more or less where that lines up. But I definitely agree with what you're saying about going back to a place over and over again. Because, like in science, right? Like, it's all
You have to
about
repeat the
repetition,
process.
it's about results. Like, in a perfect scenario, if you wanted to prove the existence of ghosts, you would take one party that does not believe in the paranormal. You take a party that does believe in the paranormal, and then you take two more of those groups that both know the history, while the first group knows none of the history, right? And then they would
Right.
have to repeat this process in the same location hundreds of times with different groups of people and see what the results are. You know what I mean?
Right.
And
Yeah.
that would be, like, I guess, the true way in science to prove the existence of a ghost or not. But obviously, nobody has those resources. Nobody's gonna. There's, as far as I'm concerned, better things that we could be putting money towards and stuff like that. Because I still think it's one of those things. Like, even if scientifically ghosts were confirmed to be real, like, there's still people that aren't going to believe that.
Okay. Yeah, exactly, man. I can counter that question too by saying we could say the same thing with Sasquatch, right? If we get a
Right.
body, how many people are gonna still not believe it? But
Yeah.
then there's gonna be other people that are gonna be like, finally, you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
then it's
Exactly.
like, where was I going with this? Oh, like the protecting of the species, right? So now, how does that put it onto the map of you know protecting these creatures?
Right, because I yeah, definitely the best way to protect Sasquatch, like if they're really out there, would be to not confirm their existence because, then every spot that has ever had a sighting is gonna triple as far as tourism. And while that might be good for the community, if these animals really are out there, like it might put a lot of pressure on them.
Hmm. Not just that, but even if they're well, I'll just say for the example here, which is, and we kind of started to hear it now, Anthony. I don't know how much it is over there in New York, but I know like with other states, that you start mentioning that there's a Bigfoot family. We'll just say for the example here, like I said, if there's a Bigfoot family that's around this specific area, all of a sudden, like let's say a month later, they're starting to cut all that wood away because they don't want. It's almost like they don't want that attraction there or something. Like I don't even know a clever way to even like answer that.
Is that something like that actually went on recently? Is it somebody claimed there was a Bigfoot and a family in like a certain spot and like the trees just started getting logged down?
Yes, it's happened in
That's
a few states now.
pretty nuts.
Yeah, it's
I can't
happened.
say like I haven't heard of anything like that happening yet, but it's definitely something I'm gonna keep an eye open on because I know like our friend John, who I'm sure you met at the Bigfoot Festival in Whitehall, the guy who runs Adirondack Bigfoot, apparently just got like pretty like a decent lead on a Bigfoot family in Ticonderoga. So
Interesting.
I'll definitely let you know if that place gets logged off in the next couple months.
Yeah, right. I mean, I don't. I think it just depends on the state, to be honest. Which that's what I'm hoping that what's going on. But yeah, I want to say there was a place in the Northwest that had some logging going on. There was another one. I think it was in Central U.S. But yeah, there was a few. There was a few that I heard where they somehow randomly just all of a sudden the place got ended up logged out. I guess I don't even know. Like I said, a good way to put that, except for I guess why is it getting knocked out then if it's not really too much of a harming for people, I guess, then leave it alone. I feel like, but if you're logging it out because of possibly there is a family there, that to me kind of says like you're doing it on purpose for sure.
Right, and, like, assuming, it's not a coincidence, then that means that the government would obviously, or some higher up would know about their existence and be trying to funnel them away from people, but the main question would be why, is it to protect them or is it to protect us?
It could very well be maybe both
Yeah,
for that sake. I mean, that's kind of like national park. We hear about missing people all the time, but will they actually come out and say what it is that's causing the missing people? No, hell no, dude. But
yeah.
obviously, we get the people that are going to say, "Well, I think it's Bigfoot because look at that vast rural area." Kind of like you were saying, you guys went to Bennington and did stuff there. That whole area
That's a
down in
huge
that,
area.
yeah, it's a huge rural area. Like you can easily see why people can get lost down there. Hell, I
Oh, yeah,
almost got lost in the
absolutely.
woods. Hell, I
Well,
almost got lost in the woods myself there because my GPS was acting all funky one time when I was trying to find the hidden graves in that woods.
just pretty funny too, going back because it is named a triangle, and I know that was more for, because it has the connection to like the Bermuda Triangle and stuff. Like it's just a catchy, good name and way to surmise an area up into like one solid location. But it's funny that you had GPS struggles there because that's one of the main things with the Bermuda Triangle is that like there's geomagnetic anomalies that would just throw like navigation equipment off.
Yeah, well, I only bring that up because I can say it now, but so there's a production company called Small Town Monsters. They're going to be
Yep.
releasing a documentary called "From the Beyond: The High Strangeness in the Bennington Triangle." I was part of that documentary for like I don't know a total of a minute and 10 seconds, I think. But anyway, the point to what I want to make here is there was a guy that was featured in that documentary that talked about his compass or GPS or both maybe, and he was talking about getting lost in the woods in this one particular area. But when he got to this one top of the mountain, it was almost like it went back to being normal, I guess you could say. And anyway, I just thought that was just weird because they even talked about when they were there trying to film and stuff. They were talking about a like a possible time slip vortex thing themselves, where they were even like the people driving even throughout the town were having trouble with the GPS, even with their card or phone. So it's kind of one of those head scratchers where I feel like where it's like, what the hell is actually going on there then?
Yeah. Yeah, like
But,
we honestly like didn't find a whole lot as far as evidence. Like we checked out some really cool locations and like I ended up driving my truck up to Fayetteville. I don't know if you're familiar with that area at all, but
yep.
basically the locals were kind of laughing at me when we went to dinner that night that I told them I drove my truck up there because they're like, we only drive our four wheelers up there.
Yep.
They're like, we take ATVs and four wheelers, and I was like, I thought it was a truck trail. I mean, it worked well enough, but yeah, like we ended up losing some footage and stuff like that too, which kind of sucked. But
Oh no.
I did do a lot of armchair research because, like, with certain documentaries, like obviously you want to give important context to what it could, because people very well could have never even heard of Bennington, right? So I
Yep.
wanted to kind of cover like some of the folklore about the cryptids and like the real cases about missing people and stuff like that. And the conclusion, I mean, I kind of came to at the end of the day is like obviously we'll never know for sure, but I do know that like as a race I feel like we tend to invent narratives because we can't comprehend like in the one case, I think the Mini Rivers, right?
Hmm.
He's a very like well-known local outdoorsman and stuff like that. Like, how would it be possible for him to go missing? And something paranormal could be involved, or maybe it's just our way of saying like, how does the guy this familiar with the area go missing? But like, it kind of, I think it boils down to like human ego, even like that we have conquered nature, but I don't think we ever will. You know?
Oh, there's no. If you think we can conquer nature, I think people need to go back and realize what was once nature can get reclaimed.
Absolutely.
Um, but yeah, talking about Midi River. Yeah, Midi River was like 74 years old or something like that too. And the weirdest part about Midi River was that all Midi did was just kind of took a few steps forward away from the group. And once Midi River went out of sight for, I don't know, what to say for the example here, like just a couple seconds, that's when Midi vanished. It was almost
That
like,
was the last time anybody ever saw him. And like,
y-
that's another
yep,
thing too, is like that there's that whole area. They call it Hell's Hollow, but it's what, Bigfoot Hollow?
yeah, something
So
like that.
three
Woodford
people went
Hollow.
missing, or I think actually one person went missing and two people died there. One of which was a murder, and the other one was kind of under mysterious circumstances. They said it was a bear attack, but there wasn't really signs of a bear attack. He was just kind of crushed.
Oh, you're talking Carl Herrick from
Yep.
November of 1943.
There's
Yeah,
Carl Herrick, and then there's the other guy that was shot there.
I don't know if I know that one.
I
Shot
don't
there.
remember his
Hmm.
name, but he was
And
shot, and somebody moved his body post mortem, but they never figured out who or what it was.
that doesn't surprise me at all. But yeah, going on Carl for a minute. Yeah, Carl was out with his cousin, I believe. His
Yeah, it was his
cousin,
cousin.
but his cousin was the one that got out of the woods and was worried about Carl. And yeah, Carl was found a few days later where it was a bizarre scene. There was one empty shell on the ground, and he had his rifle leaning up against the tree. Now, I've heard two different things. I don't know about you, Anthony, on this one, but I've heard his body was leaning up against the tree as well, while I heard he was found almost like 70 feet from his rifle that was leaning against his tree.
Yeah, so the one I
So,
heard, and I think actually, so I think there are two different cases we're thinking of. So, the I think Carl was the one. I believe, yeah, his gun was leaning up against a tree, and it was 70 yards away from it. And
yes,
then there was another guy who died in the area. I guess his gun was found like underneath some brush and something like that. And I guess his legs were sticking out from underneath a tree.
I'm gonna have to try to find this one because I don't know this one. Then
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah, look it up because there was I want to say his name was John, and I wish I had the paper with me, but it's out in the living room and I don't want to go get it right now, but yeah, I believe there Minnie went missing, and obviously Carl died there mysteriously, and I think there was one more that actually it was considered a homicide because he had a gunshot wound.
Interesting. Yeah, that
But
makes
it was
me
very
curious.
similar to Carl, and I think that's why sometimes like their stories either get confused or kind of like meshed together, but they're two separate stories, which is wild in the same
Interesting.
area.
Yeah, yeah. I'm gonna have to do some more digging. What was I getting at? Oh, yeah. That reminds me of like this old magazine that I had picked up. It mentioned like the Bennington Triangle should have actually had like or the Bennington area, I should say, the mystery should have had like 7 people, and two other people don't really get talked about that much. That is, and name is a Martha Jeanette. Yeah, Jeanette Jones. God, I'm hoping I'm not getting it confused with like the other thing. But anyway, she went missing when she was 16 years old from Bonneville, Vermont, which is south, like almost like a 20-minute drive from
Oh, is it
Manchester
Bonneville?
Center. Yeah,
I always called it Boonville for some reason, and so did my
it
dad.
could. It could, maybe it's Boonville. I mean, dude, I've
It's
heard a
probably
lot of
another one of
different.
those things though, where like, because we're from New York, like our accent to most people probably sounds the same, but it's actually pretty different with the way we pronounce certain town names and stuff.
Well, that's like with Barry. I've heard people call it Barry, and I've heard it pronounced a different way. So I think it
Yeah.
just all depends on however you want to pronounce certain things. But anyway, yeah, this Martha was 16 years old, did not go visit her family when it came down to like a school break or something. And anyway, long story short, she ended up being found. She ended up getting a picked up by hitchhiking from this couple from New York, and somehow brought her somewhere. I think it was New York. I can't remember the whole story now, but anyway, from there she hitchhiked to Virginia, where she got a job working as a waitress, but she went under a different name. This time it was like Joanne Winters or something like that. And so that's just a another case where, maybe she just wanted to start a new life, because when you really look into the story more, and now I can say more to
It
you
makes sense, yeah.
about this missing girl story, is that when the Vermont police heard back from the Virginia police that it was in fact her, but just going on the different name, I guess she was arrested and like taken into custody or something. And the parent didn't want anything to do with her. They didn't even go to. They didn't like go to like pick her up from Virginia. They're just like, oh, whatever, basically. And so basically, because of that response, I guess from what I understand, for the officer from Vermont told the people in Virginia basically to just release her, because she wasn't a threat. It was just like, well, it seems like they just don't care enough to want to go get her.
Yeah, and it is so strange too, because like you're talking about, like with the Bennington Triangle, there's 5 cases that are always brought up, and like even you have to really dig to find the other ones because most sources say that there's only 5, but there was more. And I think I remember briefly going over them, and um one of the guys that got shot, it was either Carl, or sorry, Carl didn't get shot, but you know what I mean. One of the 2 guys that died in Bigfoot Hollow, um, gets left out too.
Yeah, it seems like it, because I don't recall that one. So, and I feel like that should be one, unless maybe, now that I think about this, when I was doing some research, there was a part, I don't have the thing pulled up to really be able to say word for word, but so I'm going off memory. They did say at the time that there was possibly about 38 people missing from that area. And then it went on to say that there was supposedly 3 hunters, hikers, maybe hunters, that supposedly went missing, but they were never documented that they were missing. So I'm wondering, now that you're saying that, you said John, right? I wonder if John is one out of the 3 people that were just never documented.
Yeah, I'm gonna have my girlfriend grab me that paper, and I can read you. I'll share with you guys because the video isn't out yet, but I'll share with you a little excerpt about the big or House Hollow that I wrote, and I know for a fact that that'll kind of clear up this conversation we're having, or hopefully anyway, because who even knows? The source I probably got it from probably has it wrong anyway too. Okay.
And and that's the problem nowadays, I feel like, Anthony, right? Like, people just want to create content, and they don't care if they have the whole truth, and they just want to put it out there just to get the hits or the clicks.
Yeah, well, and like another thing too is like, people using AI to just like, type in a
Oh,
little
Jesus.
prompt and be like, oh, write me a short story that's informative about blah blah blah. And like
Yep.
AI, is getting better, but you can always tell because the vocabulary is always the same and stuff like that. But they will constantly get information wrong too. But okay, here I have the John Harbor.
John Harbor.
Yep. So,
How do you
and
spell
that
the
was
last
a few
name?
years after, the guy in Fayetteville that was, kind of turned into the martyr for the downfall of Glastonbury and
Oh,
Fayetteville, bludgeoned that guy
Henry
with a rock.
McDowell.
Yeah,
Henry
Henry
McDowell.
McDowell. So it was literally just a few years after that. John Harbor went out on a hunting trip and was reportedly shot dead. His body was dragged post-mortem and placed with his feet protruding from beneath the tree. And then there's that. So that was way back, like
Yeah,
late
like 18
1800s,
something,
early
right?
1900s.
Oh, 19. Yeah.
So it could have even been very, very early 1900s. And then nothing years later until 1943, and that was with Carl Herrick.
Yep.
And then, of course, 2 years later, Mitty Rivers went missing.
1945. Yeah.
Yep.
Um.
So yeah, I mean that might be a part of the reason why that one gets left out so much is because it's from the late 1800s or early 1900s. Like it was just so long ago.
And just to clarify, the last name spell Harbor or Bour for Harbor?
Yeah, just BOR, like the
Okay.
American version of Harbor.
Okay. I just want to write his name down too because he's another one now that I want to hunt down. Going back real quick with missing people, and Anthony, I don't know how much more time you want to share with me, but I mean, I'm enjoying this conversation nonetheless. But I mean, I do want to share another missing person case that I had found within this same magazine that I'm mentioning, which for people because I don't think I named it yet, but it's called Fate Magazine. It was from like July of 1957, I believe, that edition. Anyway, so they mentioned this other lady that went missing, and she is interesting. I feel like it's not something bizarre that happened to her. I personally think the husband did something, but I just want to share this anyway because it's just one of those other cases where you don't really hear about it. But anyway, this is a case of they called her Frances Chrisman, and she went missing from around like December, I want to say. Let me pull it up real quick. You know what? Before I say any more, let me just pull it up. Could I have her down? Yeah, right here. Frances N. Chrisman. She was 38 years old. She disappeared on December 4th, 1950. And this is another one that doesn't really get talked about. So anyway, she vanished by stepping out into a snowstorm to go visit neighbors. Supposedly she stepped out because there was an argument with her husband by the name Paul Chrisman. I don't know what the hell is up with my name with the stories with Paul and stuff and missing people, but Paul, come on now. We need to start
Maybe
doing
it's a
better.
sign. You got to
Yeah.
you're in the wrong profession, man. Get out while you still can.
Yeah, I know, right? Anyway, posses containing 50 men, state, and local police were used to search for this, and I'm quoting the newspaper, attractive Heinberg woman. Paul told authorities that the explanation of Frances walking into a blinding snowstorm to go visit neighbors, the nearest neighbor was a half-mile away. Early in the day, Paul said that she had left due to a family quarrel. Later reports mentioned it was a violent domestic quarrel. That's not good. Anyway, as we go down, this is where it gets even more interesting and weirder and oh my god, basically. Later, he denied ever making a statement about the quarrel. Paul mentioned that he didn't know Frances was missing. State Attorney Lawrence Deshaw asked him to return to Heinsberg a week later. This occurred after he had received ulcer treatment. He received treatment in a veterans hospital in White River Junction. Paul Chrisman, who is 43, employed for a telephone company and was Chittenden County's first World War II draftee. Uh, Frances' sister, Mrs. Adeline Sheehan, if I pronounced her name right, which I hope I did, reported her missing to police. It had been 2 days since she was last seen and had not reported for work. She feared for the safety of the department store worker. Mr. Chrisman went under a voluntary lie detector test, but attorney Deshaw declined to reveal the result that Lieutenant John Peter of the Vermont State Police had given. Attorney Joseph Woe said that his client would continue to cooperate in the hunt for his missing wife. And I quote, "There is no evidence of foul play," said Deshaw, the attorney. Now, I want to make a note here that I found that there was one newspaper said that Montpelier, while another said Providence, Rhode Island, for where Mr. Chrisman took the lie detector, which later one newspaper elaborated that Mr. Chrisman had taken 3 lie detector tests from Vermont and Rhode Island. Now, this is where it's really start to get interesting with this case of Mrs. Frances Chrisman, is that the house was found in a miraculous condition. The cellar did not show any recent digging. There was no evidence of such under nearby shrubbery. The nearby brook was the center of the intensive hunt from the Beaver Dam to the mountain. Attorney Deshaw also declined to elaborate an out-of-town clue of why the brook had become the number one priority to look at. On May 31st, 1951, remains were found in an open field by a farmer neighbor. Aaron Irish found a skeleton in his field only 700 yards from the Chrisman home. Mr. Irish explained that he had plowed the 18-acre lot last fall. He had gone down weeks ago, but found it to be too wet to work. Lastly, it goes into the state's attorney, Warren Deshaw, reported that at the time it was possible to take fingerprints from the decomposed body. Dr. Joseph Spellman, who was a state pathologist, said that he had not given a definite identity that had been established and which was examined at the University of Vermont Medical Laboratory. Paul had identified the body of his wife from a ring found with the decomposed bone. Officials reported that enough flesh remained on the finger to allow officials to take fingerprints. Again, they stated no foul play was seen to be involved. Now, this is where it gets weird, Anthony. So, as I kind of mentioned at the beginning of this, that she literally walked out into a blinding snowstorm. Walked, didn't even drive, because within the next day, Paul had left to go to get the treatment, so he ended up having the car. So anyway, there is a newspaper article that basically describes what this Frances Chrisman was last seen wearing or whatever. She was blonde hair, attractive, and she left that house. She left during the argument or whatever happened, wearing nothing but a skirt and a thin blouse. So there's
And how
something
far
weird
away
going
was
on
she
here.
found?
Uh, 700 feet from her doorstep.
It's just weird to me that the people were flip-flopping on things. You know what I mean?
I know exactly what you mean, and that's why I wrote all that up, because I was like, this is way too suspicious. Like, there's the fact that they throw out there's no foul play detected. I think I said it maybe twice total. Like, come on. Like, I don't know about you,
Something seems fishy.
but I don't see a female going out in a blinding snowstorm with nothing but a skirt and a thin blouse just to go see a neighbor. I'm sorry, I can't.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Especially back then.
oh yeah, especially back then in the 1950s. Yeah, totally. So, and the fact that the neighbor was a half mile away, like, oh my god, dude. Like, yeah.
Yeah, I feel like even if she was only wearing that, she also would have made it further than 700 feet in a snowstorm.
Yeah.
Like I feel like most humans could at least make it, probably half a mile in a snowstorm, depending on how bad it is. But because it does, like, yeah, I mean, even when you're not wearing much clothes, like it would still probably take you a few hours to die from like hypothermia. The only other explanation is could be maybe she fell.
Right, right. And maybe that's, and like it said in the thing, like the guy ended up getting a hint to check the brook, but he didn't reveal who or why this clue came about.
Yeah,
So again, suspicious again, and the fact that this guy had to go to Rhode Island and had to take a lie detector test in Vermont, like what the hell? I don't know, man. Just something just doesn't add up with this at all. So I think that's
it's
why
another one of those weird ones.
yeah. So I think that's why I just left that one up because it's just it doesn't sound paranormal, but it's just way too many red flags in my own opinion.
Even just for the sake of true crime, you know what I mean?
Yeah, even that too. Which I guess I wasn't really trying to make it like that, but that man, dude, that's just so weird. It
I mean, it
really
is
is.
also part of our job just to document and research strange happenings, no matter
That's
what, whether
true.
it's people or what involved.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point, especially now with the John Harbor. Anyway, Anthony,
Yeah.
what I want to do is I want to start wrapping up a little bit. So talk to us. I know you did a great job about your storage and stuff like that, but so talk to us to kind of wrap it up. Add to I'll throw in this question too because that might help. So while you guys have been doing this, whether it be between the paranormal and your stuff for Bigfoot, right? So by the time you started and now, how much knowledge would you say you have gained? And also, I guess we could throw in like, how do you feel about this subject as a whole? Like between the paranormal and the cryptid zoology as a whole.
So yeah, I mean, definitely. Like even before we started, like I had always kept up with the cryptids and stuff like that. Like that was just the reading material I liked. Like we had a lot of that stuff in the library, and of course, I grew up right next to Lake Champlain. So like from
Amazing.
when I was a kid, you know, obviously Champ, and
Mm-hmm.
then I get growing up, you hear about Bigfoot in the Midwest and stuff like that, and then the older I got, and I eventually grew to see how big just the Adirondack Park is in itself, and that there has been quite a few like reputable Bigfoot sightings, especially down in Whitehall. Like I just started diving deeper and deeper into it, and now I have this like massive collection of knowledge, and we have been to all these great locations and stuff, and like I definitely say I'm more open-minded than I used to be, especially with like ghosts and stuff like that. But as an investigator, like, and I don't know how you personally approach things, but like the way that because like Joey is a full believer in the paranormal and Bigfoot, and I just always, no matter what, try to stay on the fence.
I'll answer that for you. I I am totally like you. There's no doubt in my mind that there's definitely something involving the paranormal side for sure. I'm still on the fence for the cryptid side, but that is probably because I am one of those guys where seeing is believing. Like if I had something like a Bigfoot encounter, whether if I didn't see it or not, but just to have that
An
experience
experience,
and
yeah.
yeah, then I would love to have something like that just because then I can start to question it myself, and then I can start thinking outside the box like, oh, well, it could be this. Like here's an example, Anthony, I can give you. And you could answer this by maybe being out in the field for all I know. So, and um again, going back to I don't know how much you know about Vermont, but anyway, there's like an abandoned church in Florence, Vermont, which I don't recommend people to go to now because police are watching that place now, thanks to retarded people that ruin it for everybody. But anyway, it's not like I would there going to be disrespectful. By the way, I would mainly go in there just because like we had band photos done because we just liked that place. We thought it was creepy enough, and we just wanted band photos. You know, we wanted to
Right,
take our
yeah, and,
band
like,
photos there.
it's not like you
Uh,
guys were there destroying the place or anything like that. Like, I get what you're saying, like, a lot of people ruin stuff like that for
yes.
people like us.
Yep. So anyway, what I want to get to is I still remember this to that night. So anyway, this place is around like another like abandoned foundation thing. I don't even remember what it was. And then there's by a swamp where there's stories about voices over the swamp and this mysterious hitchhiker in Florence and this devil road and this and that and blah blah blah. Anyway, the point that I'm trying to get to all this is I remember vaguely that while we were there and our friend's girlfriend was taking the photos for us, we heard this god awful, blood curdling scream, almost as if this lady is getting murdered. But we didn't take it serious because we knew at the time that animals can sound like a dying woman. But when you look at folklore and cryptids and stuff, sometimes there's cryptids that make these sounds to try to lure you to quote your death or whatever. I think Wendigo is one of them. But anyway, but I think Bigfoot might be one of the thing, maybe the creature that I hear that make the sound sometimes. I know sometimes you hear like baby cries or something like that, or even
I think, yeah,
whistles.
that is, mostly Wendigo, I think, 'cause, I mean, that's one of the pieces of lore, right? Is that they can mimic human speech and stuff like that.
Correct. Yeah, your loved ones or something like that. Yeah, so you're right about that. Now that you say that. So yeah, I mean, I'm not trying to say we heard a window go, but you know what I mean? Like we didn't take that serious. And this is way before I even started doing my own investigations, even though I had strange things happen to me prior to that. But but yeah, I guess what I'm trying to say and ask you is, Anthony, is like for you guys going out into the field, have you heard anything weird where you kind of, I don't know, maybe second guess, like, well, maybe it could have been like this animal, or do you positively think that maybe it was, I don't know, heavier sounding or something, like more deeper, that it doesn't sound like it actually should be this animal?
So, out in the field as a whole, no, but, I do have 2 quick stories. Before, actually, I even got into paranormal investigating, I was hunting in the woods and I heard a bobcat, and I knew it was a bobcat because I eventually saw it. But I will say, like, if you've never heard one before, and even if you have, if you're out in the woods and you hear a bobcat, it'll make the hairs on the back of your neck stand up because it sounds like somebody is being stabbed or murdered. And so yeah, that was one. And actually, I was working what used to be called a park ranger, which is, and some people still refer to it as that. It's not like I was a sworn in officer of the law or anything. To basically explain, it was basically just campground security, right? And they eventually changed the name because, but everybody still called us rangers, which, like, it was what it was. But I was doing an overnight and I had to sit in the booth all night, right? But it was like 3 in the morning, and I had gone out to my truck to, get some fresh air, walk around, stretch my legs, try and wake myself up a little bit because I was on overnights 2 nights a week, and then the other 3 nights I was on third shift. So it was just a weird schedule for me. And I remember very distinctly, and this, like, it was a repeating thing, like, and it would usually happen around like 3 or so, but I remember this night specifically, like, it was a campground, so, like, I heard a baby crying, and I was like, "Oh, like, that's creepy at 3 a.m." But I knew that there was a family next door. Then that the kid eventually died down, and I remember in the direction, because, like, there were big chunks where there was nothing, like, not even a watershed or anything of just untouched wilderness, like, opposite to where the campers were. And I remember hearing coming from that direction, there's nothing in that direction. The whole campground was silent. It almost sounded like a rhythmic beating. And I don't know if you've ever heard raccoons chittering before, like that noise they make. It sounded like that, but like 2 or 3 octaves deeper. So it almost sounded like, and me in my mind at the time, like I'm obviously very freaked out because it's 3 a.m. I'm by myself. I'm like the only one awake in the campground, and I hear what sounds like a ritual or something going on, like drums beating and like this weird low chanting. But I never, like, if it was an animal, I have no idea what kind of animal would even do that. And like I remember, it's kind of funny. Like I told the actual forest ranger that we had to deal with, like, would come in and whatnot from time to time, and she was actually like basically a police officer. And one day I was telling her about it, and I asked her, and I thought it was funny because she jokingly goes, "I don't know, it's probably Bigfoot."
Oh, that's interesting. Huh.
So, and I
Did
don't know, she might have been joking, she might have been serious. Like, who knows?
y- and that's what I find to be hard, right? Is you don't know if somebody sometimes is joking or if they're actually trying to be serious, but they're trying to do it in a way where they're not trying to get in trouble per se. Because I know sometimes, I don't know if you guys had to do it, but did you guys have to do like a daily log of your night? So did you have to, like,
Yeah,
I don't
yeah,
know,
we
write
did.
up a report?
Yeah, yeah, we had to write up reports every night.
So did you add that to that report then? And it makes
No,
me
no,
wonder.
I didn't. I did leave it out. Because
Makes
actually, no,
me.
no. So when I was on my third shift, I did have to keep a report. But when I was on
Mhm.
the overnights, I didn't have to because I was basically just a booth attendant, and
Ah,
very rarely did I have to go out. I think I went out maybe once or twice, and it was kind of a crappy thing too, because like somebody has to be in that booth at all times. So if something happened, my supervisor would either have to come stay in the booth, or he would go out and deal with the problem. And I would always feel bad because he's trying to sleep. It would be like 3 a.m. and he'd wake up 'cause somebody would call and complain because it goes right to his phone, and he'd radio me over and be like, "Oh, like, head over to site, blah blah blah, whatever. I'll come sit in the booth." And yeah, I remember one time somebody was listening to like a Harry Potter, Harry Potter audiobook on like a big Bluetooth speaker at like max volume in the middle of the night.
oh my God.
And the only other time I had to go out on overnight was there was a bunch of like 40-year-old white moms just getting turnt, drinking vodka, and I was like, "Ladies," I was like, "it is past your bedtime." Like it's 3 in the morning. I was like, "People are trying to sleep. Can you like go to bed?"
All right, we turn it down, please. Like, Jesus
Yeah,
Christ.
or
Oh
at least
man.
turn the radio off and stop yelling. Like I don't care if you're awake.
Right? Just enjoy the fire. Calm down. Yeah, exactly. Oh
But yeah,
man.
so
All
those
right.
are really the only two experiences where I've actually heard something. And to leave you guys off on a funny, because we ourselves are pretty humorous over here finding dystopia. A lot of it won't make it in the video, but we're constantly laughing, especially at ourselves.
Oh,
We
well,
have
you have to
investigated
have
the
fun.
area. Have you heard of Tom Messick?
Maybe? Doesn't
Well,
ring a
maybe
bell at the moment.
this might ring your bell. Um, so he's part of like the Missing 411 series, and it was right here in Brant Lake, New York, which is
Oh,
probably
yes.
it's right in the
Yes.
same area as Whitehall, right? And there's been a ton of Bigfoot sightings in the area, and like we've investigated that location a few times and actually have found a potential imprint of what could be a Sasquatch, but we never like to say for sure because you never know. Um, but yeah, so me and my girlfriend, this was the first time we went there. We weren't even investigating Bigfoot at the time. Like this is when we were strictly paranormal. So we were just trying to see if we could make contact with anything in the area. And we were walking back on Lily Pond Road, which literally is in the middle of nowhere. Like driving in there, I had my old truck, which was lifted and had these big tires on it, not like ridiculously big, but enough to be able to go off-roading. And I remember a lot of the area just being flooded to where, like, if I didn't even have my truck that day, we wouldn't have been able to go back there. And it's like you got to drive for like 2.5 miles on this barely drivable road. And it's the sun's starting to set, so we're walking up the road because like we had eventually turned around because it's a dead end, right? So like once you get to the end of the road, there's a pond. So like we turned around and headed back towards what would be the direction of the main road, albeit 2.5 miles away. And eventually we came back to go get my truck again. And my girlfriend hears a goose fly overhead and kind of go like, "Huh." And just she's got the flashlight. I got these big muck boots on that I couldn't run in to like save my life. She just takes off, leaves me with no light in my muck boots, and she's gone. And I'm like to laughing, my butt off the entire time because I'm like, it's a goose. Stop running. She got so scared. And that part is extra funny because she's our editor and camerawoman. She's been with us on all of our investigations. She still is like the most skeptical of anything. So for her to get scared at a goose was pretty funny.
Yeah, that says something. Yeah. Oh man, that reminds me of a drunken story that I had a long time ago where I got spooked from a chipmunk's shadow. It was just because I was probably so overtired and stuff, and that this little like incident of like the scamper in a way and the shadow and stuff probably just triggered it just enough that I just got spooked and ran because I was just like, oh my god, you know.
It goes to show though that sometimes the scariest thing in the dark is your own mind. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, it's totally when you're just out partying, man, in the woods. So yeah. Oh man, I miss those days, but at the same time, I'm glad that my party days are over. So yeah.
Yeah, I definitely am in the stage of my life now, and I'm even a younger guy where I would much rather just sit by a fire and just relax.
Yep, me too. I hear you. All right, Anthony. Well, I appreciate the time that you had spent talking with me. It's been a pleasure talking. It's actually been real good. So, but yes, we definitely have to do this again because, well, now that I've learned of like certain like national holidays coming up and stuff like that, and now that you have confirmed that you've actually been to Wilson Castle and stuff, another reason to bring you back on, and maybe we could have another member of you talk about that night or something too. I'd love to pick your brain again either way, but
Yeah,
uh,
absolutely. I could definitely, even if I don't join too, I could get Joey on here one of these nights, and
oh, totally,
he's
dude.
got plenty of stories because he's a lifelong paranormal believer, and some of the stories like about his childhood and stuff like are pretty shocking. Like, and you got to hear him someday. So
Oh, totally, dude. Just send them my way for sure. But yeah, real quick, Anthony. Again, I know you probably have said this like a few times now, but for those now, like now at the end for Finding Dystopia, where can people, catch up with everything Finding Dystopia?
So yeah, I mean, if you're looking for Bigfoot, just go ahead and search up Finding Dystopia. It'll pop right up. And we do most of our like Bigfoot and cryptid related content on there. And we actually moved all of our ghost investigations to a channel called FD Paranormal, short for Finding Dystopia, obviously. And we started that about a few months ago, and we're just about to reach monetization. So if all of you guys listening could go smash like on FD Paranormal, that would be amazing. And you can also find us on Facebook under Finding Dystopia. We're on TikTok under the same name, and you'll find most of our updates and links to our newest videos and stuff on there.
Perfect. Well, again, Anthony, thank you for your time and pleasure, and we'll definitely have you back on again to chat more paranormal and more Sasquatch, Bigfoot, Yeti, wild man, whatever the hell you want to call it nowadays. So until next time, everybody, keep your eyes open because you just never know what the hell you're going to find out there in those woods. Take care, everybody.